What if your loneliness was never a curse, but a code? A divine sequence encrypted in the lives of prophets, sages, and mystics across time. Christ wandered 40 days into silence. Muhammad sought revelation in a cave. Buddha left behind royalty for stillness beneath a tree. Lao Tzu vanished into the mountains, alone. And now, it's your turn. You weren't abandoned. You were summoned into silence. Because silence is the language of God. Most people fear being alone. You crave it, because in the stillness, you begin to remember you're not a body with a soul. You're God, wearing a mask. And here's the terrifying truth. If you can't control yourself, you'll never control reality. This video isn't just about solitude. It's about why the universe isolates those it's preparing to elevate, why the path to power is paved with silence, and why all of humanity's problems stem from one thing: man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. You've always felt different, not broken, just misplaced. Like you're walking through a crowded world with your eyes wide open, while everyone else is sleepwalking. You've tried to explain it, but no one really gets it. So eventually you stop trying. That feeling, that ache of separation, it's not rejection, it's recruitment. Because God doesn't call his warriors in the crowd. He calls them in the quiet. Every mystic, prophet, and spiritual architect walked alone first. And you're no different. You're the black sheep, the pattern breaker, the one born to see what others won't. But here's the catch. To see clearly, you must step away. Society will call it antisocial, but it's actually spiritual. Silence isn't a void, it's a womb. And solitude isn't punishment, it's preparation. Like a caterpillar dissolving in its cocoon, you are not dying, you're transforming. The loneliness isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of your becoming. And only those willing to walk through the fire of isolation will emerge as creators of new realities. From the moment you were born, you were handed a mask, a name, a role, a personality stitched together by culture, family, and fear. And you wore it because you had to be accepted, to survive. But deep down, you always knew it wasn't you. Every fake laugh, every forced smile, every time you said, "I'm fine," when your soul was screaming otherwise. The mask tightened, and here's the tragedy. Most people will live and die wearing it, but not you, because something in you is rebelling, cracking, desperate to feel what's real, even if it means being alone. And here's the paradox. The more you wear the mask, the less you hear the voice of God. Because God doesn't speak through ego, he whispers through essence. Want to meet the divine? Then remove the costume. Not at parties, not in the group chat, in silence, in solitude. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But becoming your true self requires burning the false one, the one you built for applause, the one that never quite fit. And here's the truth that shatters illusions. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Krishnamurti, so be warned, when you take off the mask, you'll lose people. But what you'll gain is yourself. Let's face it, most people would rather scroll endlessly, drown in noise, or fill every second with meaningless chatter than sit in a room alone. Because silence strips away the distractions. And when the noise is gone, the truth gets loud. That's why even prisons use solitary confinement as punishment. But here's the twist. What the system uses to break people, the mystics used to build themselves. Solitude isn't terrifying because it's empty. It's terrifying because it's full. Full of every voice you've ignored, every wound you buried, every belief you never questioned. And that's why most people fear being alone, because deep down, they fear meeting the version of themselves that was never edited for approval. But you've heard something different in the silence. A whisper, soft, steady, unrelenting. There's more. More than the job. More than the paycheck. More than the filtered existence the world told you to chase. That whisper isn't your imagination. It's divine intelligence. It's God. And He doesn't shout over your distractions. He waits. In the silence you were taught to fear, you've been told solitude is a weakness, a phase, a flaw. But what if it's none of those? What if solitude is the training ground of gods? In the silence, something happens. The voices you've suppressed rise to the surface, not to haunt you, but to teach you. The anger, the sadness, the regret, they're not enemies. They're messengers. And when you stop running from them, you start learning from them. Let me give you an example. Think of a monk sitting in a dark cave. Days without food, weeks without speaking. No phones, no mirrors, just him and his mind. On day 1, his body trembles. On day 3, his memories attack him. By day 7, the demons start whispering, "You're not enough. You'll never be whole." But by day 10, he doesn't just hear the demons. He names them, faces them, forgives them, and in doing so, he reclaims himself. Because here's the truth they never taught you in school. Healing doesn't happen when you numb your pain. It happens when you meet it head-on with compassion. Solitude reveals your shadow, not to shame you, but to help you reclaim the parts of yourself you left behind to survive. And once you integrate that shadow, you become whole. You no longer chase validation. You no longer fear rejection, because you've met the darkest parts of yourself and refuse to look away. That's not weakness. That's power, real power. Because when you can sit in the fire of your own thoughts and not flinch, the world can no longer control you. Solitude doesn't isolate you from truth. It introduces you to it. Everything is energy. Every thought, every emotion, every word you speak, it all carries a frequency. And here's what they don't want you to know. Different frequencies don't just create different moods. They create different realities. Ever walk into a room and feel heavy for no reason? That's frequency. Ever meet someone and feel instantly drained or strangely alive? That's frequency. The world you see outside of you is just a mirror of the vibration you hold within you. And solitude, that's where you tune your signal. Because when you're constantly surrounded by other people, you're absorbing their energy, their projections, their noise. You become a frequency that isn't even yours. But when you're alone, the static fades, and what's left is you, your voice, your thoughts, your true frequency. This is where the magic begins. This is where the builder of worlds is born. You want to manifest something powerful? Start here, in silence. Because if your inner world is chaotic, anxious, scattered, your outer world will echo that chaos. But if your inner world is disciplined, intentional, and aligned, your outer world becomes a reflection of creation, not confusion. Self-mastery isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering the one thing most people ignore, themselves. Your thoughts become commands, your energy becomes law, and your solitude becomes sacred. Because here's the secret. When you can sit alone, regulate your nervous system. Feel peace without needing anything from the outside. You've already won. And from that stillness, you don't chase reality. You create it. Since childhood, You were taught to pray, bow your head, fold your hands, speak to God. But here's the question no one ever asked. What if God was trying to speak back? But you never learned how to listen? Prayer is beautiful, but prayer is talking. Meditation is listening. That's why most people never hear divine instruction. They fill the space with words, with wishes, with begging. But the Creator doesn't dwell in the noise. The divine voice whispers. And whispers require stillness. Imagine calling someone, pouring your heart out, then hanging up before they respond. That's how most people treat God. But you're being called into something deeper. In meditation, you don't chase God. You become available to God. You breathe. You still the mind. And you listen not with your ears, but with your soul. And what you hear isn't always words. Sometimes it's clarity. Sometimes it's peace. Sometimes it's the knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. That's why silence isn't empty. It's full of presence, full of intelligence, full of answers you couldn't hear when the world was too loud. The mystics knew this. The prophets practiced this. And now, so will you. Because the one who learns to listen to the silence becomes the one who hears the universe speak. Solitude isn't just something that happens to you. It's an art form, a practice, a weapon, when wielded consciously. But like all sacred practices, it must be learned. So here are 3 steps to mastering the art of being alone and turning your solitude into your superpower. 1. Reframe solitude. Stop seeing it as punishment. Start seeing it as proof. Proof that the universe has chosen you for something higher. Isolation is never random. It's an invitation. 2. Practice silence daily. You don't need a mountain. You don't need a monastery. Just 10 minutes. 10 minutes of stillness. No phone, no noise, no distractions. Close your eyes. Breathe. Listen. That's how you train your nervous system to hold peace. That's how you begin to hear what's been trying to speak to you all along. 3. Use time alone. Intentionally. Don't waste your isolation. Use it to reprogram your thoughts. Reflect on your path. Rewrite the beliefs that have kept you small. Journal. Meditate. Visualize. This is your sacred lab, where your next version is engineered, because the silent mind hears God the loudest, and the more silent you become, the more clearly you can create. You're not just being alone, you're mastering frequency, reclaiming inner space, becoming sovereign. And from that space, you stop reacting and start designing your reality. So the next time you feel alone, remember, this isn't exile, it's elevation. You are not being punished. You are being purified. Not pushed out, pulled inward, into the temple where God lives. Not in the sky, not in a book, but within you. Because you are not some accidental body wandering through chaos. You are the infinite, disguised in skin, the divine, behind a mask. And solitude is how that mask cracks. That's why the world distracts you. That's why the noise never stops. Because the moment you go silent, you wake up to your power, your purpose, your place in the divine unfolding. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Pascal said that. But here's the twist. That room is your birthplace, the chamber where the God within is reborn. So yes, this path is lonely. Yes, it requires discipline, but it also grants you something most never find: sovereignty, the power to hear God without needing a priest, the power to know truth without needing permission, the power to create reality from the stillness within. Because once you master solitude, nothing can master you. And the world only begins to change when you do. As within, so without. And the ones who walk alone, they were never just walking, they were ascending. So let them call you strange. Let them call you distant. Let them say you've changed. Because they're right. You have. You've remembered who you are. And now, you rise.